We are back on the Falcons Audible presented by AT&T. Not only are we back, but we're back with a Falcons victory after a Week 1 win over the Carolina Panthers. I'm Derek Rackley. That's DJ Shockley throwing up the dubs over there, right? That is dubs.
You're not eating crab legs too, are you? Okay, all right.
and Dave Archer right here. We've been having a spirited conversation about food, pre-game food, in-game food, post-game food, and so anyway, that's where we were going there. Yeah. And I'm just going to apologize right now. I forgot my spectacles today. So if you guys see me kind of look in this direction or if I read something that sounds completely off base, just give me a break, okay? All right, here's what we're going to talk about. Top performers from the Week 1 game against Carolina for the Falcons. The significance of that victory. I think we all know what that is, but we'll talk a little bit about it. And then Week 1 to Week 2, maybe where the Falcons need a little bit of fine-tuning before they face off with the Green Bay Packers. All right, before we get into that, DJ, all three of us were at the game on Sunday. Describe the atmosphere of Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the Falcons' home opener.
I'll be honest, it has not felt like that in a long time. I thought it was electric. I thought all the in-game stuff was pretty cool. All the white flags waving. You had Jeezy doing a commercial break. Yep. You had the swag surf going on. It was you started the beginning of the game when you got Big Boy and you got Mike Vick doing the open, and then the team comes out, and it just felt like how Atlanta should be. It felt like what it felt years ago when you're winning and you're playing well and things are going great and the fan base is feeling good. I enjoy the atmosphere. It's one of those places where you felt like, I'm glad I'm here. Yeah. You know, I'm glad I'm not watching it on TV. Like, it felt good to be in the building and feel that atmosphere and feel how excited the fans were. And I think we all talked about it coming in was the optimism. Arthur Smith talked about how this is going to be a really fun team to coach, but then you wanted to see it. Yeah. And then there were a lot of things to be happy and cheer about. So I was glad to see the fans show up, and I was glad to see the fans, make some noise and be relevant.
It's a great point because if anybody watched on television, you might have missed half of the stuff that we're talking about because it was a lot of this stadium production stuff that happened during breaks. I mean, I'm sure that they probably highlighted some things on the television, but not only the people you mentioned, but Andrew Jones in the house, Jermaine Dupri in the house, and probably many other celebrities. I know there's a lot of Falcon. T.I. was in the building, which is, it's something that's very cool, very unique to Atlanta because there are so many, I guess you just call them famous people, so many personalities that live in the Atlanta area, that call Atlanta home, and that really want to support the Atlanta Falcons. What was your vantage point from the radio booth?
Yeah, it was, come on, do it with me, Shaw. Come on, let's get it going. No, you got to stay with me now. Ready? Here we go. There we go.
Oh, wait.
Get it going. Little swag surf.
I'm on the other side.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Yeah. No, it was an atmosphere you want for an opening day game, right?
Yep.
I thought the Atlanta fan answered the call. There were a ton of fans there. Really cool that the Falcon staff and those that were there passed out the flags. That always makes it bigger when you get the flags and the flags were waving. I've had a number of people send me videos of the fans responding and what was going on and trying to pump up the building. I thought the team fed off of them.
Yeah.
I thought a moment in the game, and I know we're going to dive into the game, that it felt like maybe the crowd was influencing the game was the 4th and 1 stop.
Yes, sir.
Atlanta doesn't do anything on the first series of downs, really kind of an inept first drive, if you will.
Yep.
Punt the ball. They're moving the football with their number 1 draft pick at quarterback, and then all of a sudden, boom. That big defensive front slams the door shut, and they exploded, and they're jumping in the air, and the crowd responded to that. So I thought that was cool, and I thought the crowd helped feed that into the players, and the players subsequently responded with a stop that kind of warranted their excitement and stuff like that. But yeah, it was one of those moments where you felt like this team was 6-3 in this building a year ago. They're now 1-0 this year in the building. So 7 of the last 10 games in the bins they've won. Oh, by the way, you're playing in the bins this weekend. Let's load it up. I don't want to see a lot of green and gold in the building this weekend.
No.
This is a heritage team coming in. I know that in Green Bay, and I know there's some Green Bay fans here in this city. Let's load it up with black and red.
But did you get Wes to swag and surf in the booth with you?
He can't do it. It takes a little bit of rhythm to get that going and stuff, but I try to get it going a little bit. No. He didn't have that.
Before we move on from the atmosphere, can I just get your guys' take on Freddie Falcon? Because I was like,
good call.
bruh.
Yeah.
Okay, so before the game, he comes down from the rafters like double bungee corded, like coming down, and I'm just looking at him like, dude, there ain't no way.
Unbelievable.
Like, I don't know how much they're paying him, but there ain't no way you getting me up there.
Hardest working bird in the city.
Second half, he's dangling from the rafters, holding a rise up flag.
No problem.
And I was like, this is really cool.
Doing flips at halftime with the bike.
On the bikes.
Doing bikes. I mean, Freddie's different level. Man.
Yeah, he is. Freddie turned up for week 1.
For sure.
Well, and real quickly, he's a guy that if you start, the guy that plays Freddie Falcon, and no, that's not an actual bird, but but Freddie Falcon, hardest working bird. I say that.
Yeah.
The dude is everywhere in the city throughout the offseason. He's at schools, he's at hospitals, he's everywhere trying to bring that goodwill and everything that Freddie Falcon stands for. So congratulations on that, and yeah, nice performance to start the season off.
NFC mascot of the week. How about that? We
have
one.
Yeah,
how about
I'm in
that?
on that.
I like that. That's nice.
How about overall, though? Like, I'm not trying to get off, but Blooper's pretty good for the Braves, too, now. Like, I've been to a couple Braves games. Blooper, he be turning up, too, at Braves games.
What is Blooper?
How do you explain what Blooper
What is he?
He's got the larger midsection.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a big blue guy.
Didn't the Philly Fanatic already kind of make that happen?
Yeah, but it's still hilarious.
Okay.
It's still good.
Bloopers off the chain, though.
Okay. He's not in the same league
anyway,
as Freddie
Falcons
Falcon.
mascots are doing their thing. Let's get back to the Falcons, shall we? Let's dive into the game a little bit. Arch, I'm going to come right back to you. Top performers. You could go a number of different directions here. Player, position group. What are you thinking here?
Well, how do you not take the defensive player of the week, in my opinion? Jesse Bates III came here as a high-price free agent. He came here on the premise that obviously the guy can play center field and can tackle people. I remember you and I got together and we did a couple of synopsises on one on Jesse Bates, which you did. I did one on Jonnu Smith and how they would affect the games and potentially affect the games throughout the year. Your assessment of Jesse Bates and his ability to come down and tackle, 10 tackles in this game, folks.
Yep.
Your assessment of his ability to get his hands on the football, 2 interceptions and a forced fumble.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else the guy could do. So as far as stars go, I think it starts with Jesse Bates III. He's what you had hoped he would be. He's exactly what you got in the game. If this is any indication of what he's going to be for the next 16 games, boy, you talk about a steal in free agency.
I'm thinking the same thing, Arch. Like, I'm sitting there, section 119, and I see the first one. I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. I see the second one, and I look at the stats, and I was like, dang, 10 tackles. I was like, well, they already got their money's worth out of him. That's right. DJ, what'd you think? Do you?
I took the low-flying hanging fruit. You get yourself one.
Are you gonna back him up, or do you got another one for us?
I definitely will back Arch up. And, I mean, for one, he wears the number 3, so obviously he's going to be a really good player. I mean, makes sense. Makes sense. Nah, but Archie's spot on. Jesse was everything and more that you wanted in that first game. And obviously the 2 backs on the other side. Yeah. You're talking about Algier and Robinson, 2 guys who came into this ballgame. You already knew Algier, 1,000-yard rusher. You knew he did it last year in his rookie season. Coming in, how would that dynamic work again with you bringing in the number 8 overall pick, all the excitement about Bijan coming in, and he was everything and more. I saw the AtlantaFalcons.com put up a real nice clip of you guys, Arch and Wes, in the booth, and I think it was the same feeling that I had and a lot of people had on the first touchdown by Bijan, where makes one guy miss and then just uses his strength and power to break tackles. We know what he's about to get in the zone, and I saw the video and I see you just lean back and laugh. Like, come on, bro. Like, seriously, this is what you're going to do? Like,
kids play.
When you touch it, it's unbelievable. And that's how I was thinking, too. Like, I mean, is he really going to make some plays? Is he really going to shine like that? And make a play like that to be his first one was pretty cool. You're talking about 177 all-purpose yards between them, 3 touchdowns. The first time Algier comes in the game, buzzes off a 19-yard run, buzzes off a 20-some-yard run. And, of course, he had great blocking up front. But those 2 guys together are going to be fun to watch. Seeing them both on the field at the same time is fun to watch. Yeah. And both those guys feeding off each other. You love the energy. You love what they bring to this offense. And, I mean, they got a guy named CP who's going to be back too. So add that to the fray. That's going to be fun.
Forget about that. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better opening play to kind of introduce yourself to the city than Bijan Robinson gave for you on that little swing screen.
Yeah.
They get the ball out, got a nickel blitz, so they get him outnumbered anyway. Frankie Luvo, the linebacker, trying to get him. And so you get the little dead leg, right? Gets a little dead leg move. Then you get the acceleration. then you get the shimmy, and then you get the power to blow through. He gave it all to you on one play. Just kind of a dynamic thing that you're going to see throughout the year.
Right. Let me add one last thing to that particular play. And Arch, everybody, I mean, you see it, but it may be something that never came on the stat sheet, was never talked about. You talked about the nickel blitz come off. They could have easily handed that ball off to Tyler Algier, and the nickel blitz comes and blows it up. You watch the tape, his eyes, Desmond Ridder, are right on that nickel guy.
Good call.
His eyes are where they're supposed to be, and it never comes up. You ever hear about it in the stat sheet, but if he hands that ball off, it's a negative yardage play. You never see or have Bijan have the opportunity to make that play. He understands the game. He sees the field, gets the ball out of his hands, and allows this guy to be who he is. And we got what we got.
You guys talked about that run, and I watched it again, and I think he tore my ACL when he made the first break. And what it would be to be young again. Goodness gracious. I mean, he made the first one miss, and I'm sitting up there. I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty special. And then I watched the play unfold, and I'm like, if anybody had doubts on why you draft a running back in the first round, he was just like, this is what I bring to the Atlanta Falcons, by the way. Bijan Robinson, first rookie running back to have a touchdown reception for the Falcons since 1976.
Bubba
in his
Bean.
first career game. Bubba Bean, 1976. And I'm glad you brought up Tyler Algier because I feel like there's so much conversation about Bijan and what he's going to bring to this offense. Gets the start for a guy in Algier that rushed for over 1,000 yards last year. Yeah. And a buddy of mine texted me last week, and or a couple days ago, and he says, I heard that Bijan he didn't see the game. He said, I heard that Bijan was pretty good. I was like, yeah. But they're still going to use Tyler Algier because he comes into the game and he just brings another. And I don't want to say a different element because I'm not going to sit here and say that he can't do some of the same things that Bijan Robinson can. But the physicality that he runs with and his ability to break tackles and pick up some tough yardage. Yeah. It is going to be fun to watch these two together throughout the rest of the year because you've got some excitement out of two running backs that I think very few teams in the National Football Leagues can say that they can do. So this is the time when it's like Arthur Smith, okay, what do I do next with these two guys right here? So a lot of top performers. Jesse Bates, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, number of guys were a big part of this victory. Speaking of this victory, DJ, the significance. It's easy to say, we get a win in the opener against a divisional team. But is it more than just that, the significance of this first opening victory?
Absolutely. I think it sets your team off on the right foot. It's positivity going out. And we just talked about opening of the podcast about how it does so much for the fans, the excitement of everybody being in the building. You lose that ball game, we know over the years fans are like, okay, here's the same old thing. We've seen this before. There was a lot of excitement coming in, but the positivity to get the win, and you win by 2 touchdowns against a division foe in your building, and I think that's the number one thing is protecting your home. Arch, you just talked about it. 7 out of 10 games winning in your building over the last 2 years. That's what that's where it starts with. And I think the fact that you did it in a fashion where everybody was so much anticipating this matchup, so much anticipating what the new look Falcons team will look like, and you go out and win. And all that happens because you have the energy and effort from everybody around the organization, but to do it in that fashion I thought was big, and it goes to set your season off the right foot.
Yep.
And you talk about going into week 2 against the Packers. There's a different feeling if you're going into it 0-1. It's a different feeling if they're coming into your building where you just lost the ball game, where a lot of people felt you probably should win. You got the number 1, overall draft pick coming in, and nobody haven't won a game since 2002 to start the season, and you allow it to happen. It becomes quote unquote the same old thing, the same old team, and you find a way to win a ball game. I think that big volumes of how you start a year.
And Arch, you never know how things are going to shake out during the day, but as it turns out, obviously, Atlanta plays Carolina, 2 divisional teams. The other 2 teams in the division both ended up winning. Mm-hmm. So you lose that game, and everybody else in the division has a victory except you. So it's now they keep pace with everybody else, if you will. I know there's still a bunch of games left, right? But that's the one thing about the National Football League, or college football for that matter, is you only get a limited amount of opportunities each week to go out and do your job, and that's to win football games, and they did it.
I thought that the fashion, and I thought Shock did a really good job of explaining some of the things that certainly were attached to this, in addition to what Shock so eloquently put down. I think that's exactly what went down as far as how you feel about yourself coming out. How about the way you took care of your business in the game? Okay, this was a very difficult, hard-fought defensive battle. Yeah. This is a front seven that's as good a front seven as you'll find in the National Football League. Brian Burns is as good as there is off the edge. Derek Brown is probably one of the 3 or 4 best defensive tackles in the league. Frankie Luvo is an emerging middle linebacker that can go get it just about sideline to sideline. Jeremy Chin, outstanding player on that edge as a nickel defender and or box safety. Really good in the front seven. I thought Atlanta did a really good job of kind of trying to hold up. It was a battle back and forth because Atlanta's front seven played pretty well as well. So when you get the opportunity to go win the football game, Algier scores on the bounce out where he gets to the pylon, makes it 17-10. What have we seen through the years? Okay, you immediately give up a drive that allows them to tie the football game. You don't get that. Okay, Atlanta gets the stop. There's an exchange of a couple punts. Then you get the special teams play. There was a really weird penalty on that, but Atlanta ultimately pins them at the 1 yard line.
Offsetting penalties.
You get the defensive stop.
Weird play.
You get the defensive stop. They have to punt, play the field position game, which it was the whole game. That's why the game was called the way it was by both Frank Reich and Arthur Smith. They knew it was a field position game. Atlanta gets the short field, and then that moment you have a chance to step on their throat. And I'm not trying to be violent here, but that's what this. They went down and they stepped on their throat and they finished the game. They went down and finished them off. How many times have we seen this team over the years, certainly in the last 5, where we've opened the season 0-1 and not gone to the playoffs, is you don't finish games when you have a chance to finish it. And they finished it on that drive with Algier pounding in for a second touchdown. Now it's a 2-touchdown game, and it's too big a hole for them to climb out of. I thought from an attitude standpoint and kind of permeating what they've tried to develop here, toughness, 60 minutes of football, now let's find a way. Our final cog is let's finish games. That was a finish. Okay, and I thought that was a big important thing, too.
Guys, we've been around this, and I know you would back me up, but ever since I was in high school, you talk about the most cliche terms in football, or any sport for that matter. Start fast and finish, right? And you could sit here and say, oh, everybody says that, but they didn't necessarily start fast, but to your point, Arch, they finished. Like, that's called finish the drill. I mean, all the stuff that you do in the offseason. You finish your reps in the weight room. You finish your reps when you're out doing conditioning out on the field. You finish the drill during practice because you're trying to train yourself to finish the game when you have it on the line. I think it's a great point that they were able to finish and come away with a victory. Now, whether you're in high school, you're in college, you're in the NFL, they always say some of the biggest improvements come between week 1 and week 2. So let's address some areas where the Falcons need to step up and maybe some challenges that they're going to face next week against Green Bay. I'll outline a couple of them. Obviously, they give up 4 sacks in the game. We know about Burns. Burns creates havoc, okay? We know that they gave up 154 yards of rushing in that game, and you're going to face a running back duo that's pretty good this week in Green Bay. Anything else?
The caveat to that, I think I don't know that Aaron Jones is going to be able to play. Pulled a hamstring on a play going across the middle. Actually, the play that really kind of got them going against the Bears, he catches a crossing route and strains the hamstring going into the end zone. So there's a good chance you may not see Aaron Jones in the game against Green Bay.
So either of those 2 areas or something else stick out to you as far as something that needs to be improved on quickly or some areas that they're going to have to address for Green Bay?
I think the first 2 you mentioned are a must. You have to get done. Obviously, you can't when you don't protect your quarterback, that's a big deal. And this is going to be another defensive front with Lucas Van Ness coming in, the rookie. I mean, you got Quay Walker. I mean, you got a bunch of guys on this defensive front that can get after you to make some plays and can force the issue. So absolutely protecting the quarterback. I think the other part of it is the Falcons were 2 of 10 on 3rd down. Those are not winning scenarios for you usually in a ball game when you don't kind of move the chains. This is a game where you have to sustain the rock, and obviously the defense played well enough on this ball game where you had some short fields would help you. But going 2 for 10 on 3rd down, not protecting your quarterback, not stopping the run, those are key issues in a game where usually in the National Football League, you're probably not going to come out on the other end of it. But because you had those turnovers, you usually have an avenue where you can win those ball games. I think you have to protect the quarterback, but also be better on those third down situations. You had some stuff go on first and second down that really hurt you, that got you behind the chains. I mean, a lot of time, 1st and 20 or 1st and 15, that really are drive killers to start. So you can understand how you were 2 of 10, but you can't have that issue again this week.
For the average fan that's listening, you're going to say 2 of 10, that's 20%. What is good in the NFL? Just so you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 45%, you're probably near the top of the league in the NFL. That's not going to sound great, right? That just shows how good defenses are in the NFL and how difficult it is. Like, you're not going to see very many teams going out converting 70 to 80% on third down. It just doesn't happen. Arch, what sticks out to you as far as improvements that need to be made?
Well, certainly the third down stuff is a big deal. Those third downs, you face 10 third down situations. 6 of the 10 third down situations were 8 yards or more. 5 of them were 10 yards or more, which goes to what Shock was talking about. And one of Key's Shock had going into this game was, what are you doing on 1st and 2nd down to make sure you're not in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, which you faced the entire game. That makes it really difficult on the quarterback. It makes it difficult on the play caller. It's very difficult to execute in those situations because it changes the dynamic defensively as far as what I'm worried about. If it's 3rd and 12, I'm probably not thinking run. I'm coming after you, and I'm going to heat you up in different ways, so it makes it difficult. So third down, so 1st and 2nd down, going back to what Shock said, you've got to eliminate the pre-snap penalties. If, Dez gets out of the pocket on a play, does a great job of buying time, gets out of the pocket, and finds Kyle Pitts. 26-yard completion that shows the ball over the midfield stripe on Carolina's side of the field. It comes back because of a holding penalty. Too many of those kind of mistakes. Got to stop making those kind of mistakes. And unfortunately, it's becoming a little bit of a thing here because that's what happened. If you remember in the preseason, they were bothered by pre-snap penalties and or self-inflicted wounds that came back. I'm going to point out a couple things that I thought were superlatives in the game. I thought your coverage downfield was phenomenal. I mean, Shock, how many times did we see Bryce Young get out of the pocket or be forced out and give the front four credit because we didn't blitz a lot. But you pressured him out of the pocket. Now, it got better in the second half because you made him throw it away, but he was getting out looking. He couldn't find anybody. There were guys covered everywhere, so plaster coverage down on the back end. And when he did dump the ball off, how good was the tackling in the open field? I mean, Atlanta didn't miss a lot of tackles on defense. So those are a couple of superlatives. I know we're talking about maybe getting better. Certainly, we've got to shore up our interior run game. You cannot get pushed around to the tune of 150 yards in the interior. It'll be interesting to go back. I looked at the tape yesterday. I thought that we were doing a lot of stuff with the linebackers trying to run people through. Maybe you're running yourselves out of plays. It'll be interesting to see what Ryan Nielsen decides to do to maybe keep those linebackers in position to make plays. I think he did more of that in the second half. Troy Anderson, 10 tackles in the game. So I think that got better in the second half. But, I think there's some minimal things to clean up. I think everybody's pointing at the quarterback. If you go back and look at the game, I'm not sure what else Dez was supposed to do. He completed 15 of the 18 throws he made, and he got out of the pocket. Some of that was nullified, as I just suggested. He had a couple balls dropped. He was in uncomfortable situations the entire game. And, oh, by the way, we didn't get Burns blocked the whole first half. So I'm not sure what else you were supposed to do. So it was an efficient game by him, but you won the football game.
The very first opening drive, and I'm behind Atlanta where they're at. And we had just kind of talked on the pregame show about Burns, and he's kind of was in a contract dispute at the time, but he was still practicing and all this stuff. And he did sit out like a couple of days or whatever. And then like the first 3 plays I watched, and I'm like, wow, this dude is next level right here. And he just continued to cause havoc the entire, like you said, the entire first half.
Yeah, that movie line came to mind for me. Pay that man his money.
If you won't, we'll take him down here in Atlanta. I don't know. He might have said it under his breath there in the first half. Like, have I earned it now? Do you know what you're missing? But, just like we talked about, the challenge doesn't stop in the NFL. You mentioned Lucas Van Ness and Preston Smith and a lot of guys that the Green Bay has is going to.
Devondre Campbell coming back to Atlanta.
So he's going to have a little motivation. I know you mentioned Quay Walker. I'm surprised you didn't mention all the Georgia players.
Devontae Wyatt.
Yeah, Devontae Wyatt. I figured all this was
He had a sack and a half in the game.
He did.
And Walker had interception for a touchdown.
I mean, Art said it, not me. I'm glad Art got my back.
So what, are you saying them Georgia Bulldogs be doing their thing?
I'm just saying. I hope not this week, but making some noise. That's all.
All right, so that's kind of what we feel like the areas of growth and some areas to focus on as we go up against the Green Bay Packers. That'll wrap it up for us here, folks. Hope you enjoyed the podcast and the laughs that we like to have, the breakdowns, the X's and O's that we like to bring to you. Continue to like, subscribe, and review on Spotify, iTunes, AtlantaFalcons.com, and YouTube. And we will be back next week, hopefully, with all smiles and talking about those dubs.
Let's hope so.
Next week.
No green and gold in the building.
Hey, Packers. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been the Falcons Audible presented by AT&T.